All right, we are live and excited to be on the You vs. You show today. Hopefully you're having a good week out there. Everyone that's watching this on YouTube and our business pages and Instagram and all over the world on these platforms. But hey, just wanted to first of all wish you all the best. I know it's Tuesday and we're doing this live right now. And we want to really add a ton of value today with the topic, because we do this every single Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And You vs. You is exactly what it sounds. The You vs. You show is how can we win the battle with ourselves? How can we absolutely go out there and win the 12 battles, like in my book, You vs. You? And one of the biggest battles I think that we all face today as human beings is this feeling of we're not worthy. A lot of us have goals. You versus your success, you versus your dreams. Even down to you versus your persona, and how we edit ourselves to conform to the world. We're going to talk about that today, and how it's so empowering to be authentic on who you are and not be a people pleaser and go out there and be the best version of yourself. And today we're talking to a lady who's incredible. She is a client within our institute, the Inside Out Institute, but she has a lot of credentials. She is a leadership coach. She's been definitely in the study of transformational leadership and personal growth for many years. She has a massive heart, just loves to add value, loves to help people. But just like all of us that are watching, she's had to have things that she's had to overcome, and we're going to talk about that today. So this comes up a lot. And Jennifer, thanks so much for being on the show today. I wanted just first of all, let me just introduce you properly. Have you kind of share your background, a little bit about yourself, your story a little bit. I know you have a family. I know you live on the East Coast here in the United States. So give us a little background of your personal story. I think I'm just so ready to get into the topic. I kind of forgot to, hey, let's hear from you a little bit. Who are we talking to today?
Sure, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and to connect with everyone. So my name is Jennifer Ford. And yes, I live on the East Coast. My family we have dual residency living. So we live between West Virginia and Ohio, and I'm a mom and a wife. I'm an instructor in the corporate world, and I'm passionate about all things holistic health and mindset. And that has been a pivotal part of my journey, and naturally just started sharing that and then turned into coaching and working with many women and clients as well. So
cool. And where did that come from, that passion to go from like the corporate world to like, what did you have to do yourself to learn, to grow, to be able to kind of say, things with authority, to lead with authority? What was that journey like?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I would say in my 20s was a pivotal time for me. I was a college cheerleader and happened to get injured and had surgeries. And at the time I thought, no big deal, but 3 major surgeries later really impacted everything in my life, my energy, my health. And that really led me at the time, all respect for doctors, but it did lead me down a journey of just constantly being on medicine. And at the time working multiple jobs, student teaching, while I was in college, it was like I just felt empowered to search for other answers. At the time, just living on medication wasn't helping my situation. So that's when I became empowered to start looking, speaking up, making more holistic decisions. And then that just naturally led into mindset and
Okay, cool. You there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. All right. So tell me about like where this feeling of unworthy, a lot of people deal with this. So as a coach yourself, like how do we deal with like people that feel like they come to me, they come to you, or they come, just be like, look, I don't know if I could do this. They have dreams, they have goals. And of course we have all these things that have happened to us, these traumas, these injuries, whether it's the injury of the mind or the injury of the body. It could be, so many things. I mean, everyone's different. We're not in the same boat. I was talking to a client before this, and she, man, I mean, it's a crazy life that she had. I mean, abandoned at 15, left on the streets in the middle of, some horrible neighborhoods to left offender. I mean, like some of us grew up in a great way. Some of us grew up in a very bad way. But, as adults, how, in your opinion, in your view, and just in your own personal life, when you ever feel like unworthy, what are some of the things that you've done to set boundaries or kind of move past that so that have the daily disciplines to get better and better, like what is your regimen? What is your routine? What are some things that maybe you've done that could be helpful for our audience that's listening today, that they can really feel more worthy and know that everyone's worthy and we have an opportunity of a lifetime to serve? So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was something, in the beginning when I started sharing more of my story, we're like, do we really have a story? Can people relate to me? But I think even the most confident people, we all have areas where we're like, are we worthy of that? And really my journey, probably 3 years ago specifically, just with a lot of criticism, a lot of things in very close personal relationships, really made me realize that I was exhausted. I was over just putting that smile on my face, and we just tend to like swallow down our emotions and hide them down. And I got to a point in situations where I was like, no more. I'm not doing this, and really staying firm to boundaries. And we have those moments where we feel hopeless. And I remember it was like Christmas break, and I was like just laying in bed crying. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get out these tears, and then I'm just gonna step by step. So many people. I mean, granted, I had supportive friends and family, but I just kind of started. And one thing is just sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to be like, okay, this really stinks, but I'm going to do something about it. And I kind of went all in at the time. I set, once a week I was going to personal training. I was physically, mentally, all aspects of my life going to change it. So once a week, boxing every single week. I started meditating. I started listening to podcasts. I love to travel, so I started going to a lot of events as well, even if it was alone. And it just became such a priority for me that every day it was a focus. Really, really reining in on that subconscious mind, because I was good at taking the action, but I wanted to make sure that subconsciously I could see all of these patterns and programs playing out. And I really wanted to be mindful and change that.
So they say that, the best education is when you travel. It's not through a book or it's not through a podcast, it's through experiences. So tell me a little bit about that. So you just traveled even alone. What kind of what awareness came about that, getting out of your comfort zone and not just being home? Because I mean, a lot of people that are watching this have been in COVID for 3 months. By the way, I cannot wait to stop saying that stupid word COVID. So it's like 3 months of quarantine in our house. And, some of us forget that there's a whole world out there, even outside the United States of America. So what has that done for you traveling? How have you grown from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Traveling just makes me feel free, like authentically me. And I started realizing just that lightheartedness, that like I'm gonna explore and enjoy and live in the moment. And then, sometimes we're guilty about when we come back to day-to-day life, we have to do more, we have to please other people, we just have to go, go, go. And so for me, travel really allowed me the opportunity to connect with other people, to have that sense of, I want to work towards this. I'm taking a weekend to go to an event, to be a part of a mastermind. It just really made myself a priority, that I was worthy of this healing journey, that I was worthy of the time to connect with others for fun, pleasure, and business.
Yeah. So what kind of masterminds have you been in? Because I definitely want to kind of talk a little bit about that. So what does that mean, like a mastermind? Like the coming of, I guess, more than one or two minds, right? So how is that meaningful to you, and how has that shaped your life?
It definitely, I've been in several, and it's been really pivotal because you have, usually I would say about 6 to 10 women that you can really count on, that watch your transformation, that support you. And again, just that accountability, because sometimes when we're like, I don't know if I can do this, it's that little bit of push that says, sure you can. And, I've been grateful to be a part of masterminds of different teams, and of course now Inside Out Institute. But, sometimes that just little bit of encouragement, like you can do this, it goes a very long way.
So what does encouragement do to you? What's is that your love language, or is your love language like acts of service? Is it because people look at the love language, for instance, the 5 love language, like it's only for like married couples, but at the same time, it's just your love language in general. You have your best girlfriend, she needs to know about it. You need to know about your best girl. It's a woman thing and a man thing. It's a couple thing. So what would be like your top 2?
Words of affirmation, definitely.
Yeah.
And I believe acts of service as well as the other one when I've taken the quiz.
Sure. And then there's one physical touch, but that again doesn't have to be like sexual or anything. It could be like hugs and touches and just, a lot of women hug other women. I've seen that. And I've never seen a woman really hug or handshake another woman. Like, nice to meet you. Like, hi, nice to meet you. They're usually the more of the huggy type. And I've seen, I always like guys. I always like how guys hug each other too. What's up, bro? We really need that physical touch even more than now ever, going through what we're going through. But, as you look at the world and as you look at, so many people opposite of what we're talking about, opposite of being physically around people, opposite of words of affirmation. In fact, you look at social media and it's like it's not affirmation at all. It's just more like blasting and, trash talking and being so negative. So how is that person that really has, what's called boundaries? Let's talk about boundaries. How does someone separate themselves from the real world? Because that's what the real world's doing. It's just, especially on like social media stuff and stuff that maybe we're a part of during the day, that we're scrolling or whatever, because this is on social media, even this interview. So what would you suggest to set boundaries for ourselves to not be so inundated with all that stuff, but actually do quite the opposite? So here's a take. So a lot of people say, you know what, I'm not even on social media. I'm going to get off it. And that is a approach. I don't think it's a very great approach if you ever want to be a leader, because this is a time now where leaders need to rise up and be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. I think when people are silent or they just don't want to get involved, you don't have to. But so what are you doing proactively on your social media with your message right now that is quite the opposite of what the masses are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There's definitely good and bad to it. And it's interesting because about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I actually had never done a Facebook Live. And I, believe it or not, went on with tears in my eyes on my personal page and said, I'm starting a group for women because I just wanted to provide hope and mindset. And it's quickly grown to women all over the world. And it's amazing because sometimes our friends, our supporters are online all over the world. Maybe we've never met them, but we all have those people that are our absolute best cheerleaders. And so I agree, just using it mindfully, not necessarily engaging in conversations that are, I consider, low vibe, just making sure that you follow high vibe people and businesses and communities. And I personally follow a lot where I'm learning, and it's great tips and providing a lot of high value to my life. And that's what I really seek out. And, unfortunately, throughout my journey, I'll have to say that I have had to take breaks or unfollow people that just were putting me down or crossing boundaries. And as hard as it was necessary for me to do.
I think the saddest part in my experience being a leadership coach, transformational leadership coach for 17 years, I think the saddest part that I've ever had to I dealt with it today, but luckily I talked her out of it. A new client who was really so excited yesterday. I mean, this woman, and if she's watching, I don't want to say her name or whatever, but she's fantastic. She's amazing, single mom. Like, she has everything that really, those ingredients to really be so successful in life. So she talks to me after she talked to one of our salespeople and just loved it. So on fire. And then 24 hours later, I text her like, hey, how's it going? And then all of a sudden 2 texts of like excuses, money stuff. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. So I assumed, I took a risk today and I was on the phone and I just assumed, I'm like, hey, what happened 24 hours ago? You're on fire, ready to do this. And I assumed what happened, and I was right, 100% right. I said, okay, here's the scenario. After you got on the phone with me, you got so excited and you went to your family and you told them what you're about to do. And you told them all the excitement and they shut you down. And they said, you shouldn't do it. You should just focus on your job. She has 2 jobs. Focus on your 2 jobs, keep raising the children, and just do you. She literally almost said no because of some family member that said, don't do it. But the family member wasn't on the call with me. They didn't see the massive amount of articles, third-party articles that we have on us. They didn't see the page. They didn't see the testimonials, nothing. People make these assumptions. And when you're talking about boundaries, I think we all, if you really want to be successful in life, if you really want to have a great marriage, if you really want to have great friendships, if you want to have great success, great, your dreams come true, would you agree? And tell me a little bit about what you do to not listen to those opinions. Some people call them sheep, because why would a lion listen to the opinions of a sheep? But what would you do as a woman, though? As a woman and as a mother and as a wife, when you're so excited about something, how do you deal with that, even on a personal level? And then how do you coach people on a professional level to not listen to that? Because that is the biggest thing that holds people back, is people that are their family. They're telling them what they think they should do, but it's easy to give advice because it's free. So what do you do? What are some things that you've kind of set boundaries on? Because obviously you're a person that says yes. You're a person that takes a chance on herself, and you're a person that takes risks. But you're also very smart, and you're very motivational and inspirational. So how has that affected you, and what proactive things do you do on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. That was definitely a part of my journey, even again, specifically a couple of years back when, when we share with our close friends or family what's going on, and instantly we say they're kind of projecting on us. And in situations in my life when they were very difficult and I was vulnerable and shared that, I had people that were calling me weak or judging me because of how I should have responded to something. And it was hurtful, but it made me realize, and again, I didn't know you at the time, but it was basically the start of the you versus you. My internal, like, wait a second, I'm literally just going to back up from everything, and I'm going to think what's important to me. Because people might not realize, but they have their own motives and their own subconscious programming that are giving me advice of you.
Yes.
Maybe they've had a bad experience or limiting beliefs around that. And so that
true.
was one of the biggest lessons for me, that when people were saying you're weak, or you should be doing this, it was like, I use that more of an opportunity to grow. So I really got disciplined. I time blocked in my calendar. If you see my calendar, it's like color coded and blocked out. I'll set even alarms on my phone just to keep myself accountable, because again, making myself feel worthy was a priority. And sometimes, unfortunately, when we're listening to others that don't feel worthy themselves and they're fearful, even if they might have good intentions, of course, they might come out that way. And I realized for me personally that you're right. I love cheering other people on. It provides me so much joy to encourage people. But at the same time, I learned that I needed to make myself a priority, and quite honestly, cheer myself on as well.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people don't invest in themselves, and a lot of people don't hire coaches. They don't hire, maybe practitioners. So I got a couple more questions. Let's go to the emotion side of this. When you said something, we said a lot of great things, but one of the things that you talked about is people project their own conditioning subconsciously without even knowing it, even though they have great intentions. So yes, I could be your friend. I could really want what's best for you, but I was verbally abused when I was a kid. You weren't, let's say, and I still have that in my subconscious brain because we have emotional baggage. So I feel I'm not worthy, so I don't want you to feel the same way that I do. So I'm cautious for you to say, hey, don't go down that route, because what if you don't make it? Because I feel unworthy, so I'm projecting that on you. So there's real things like emotional baggage, inherited baggage. What's your excitement to learn more about that, what you know about that, and then being in a program like Inside Out Institute that really takes care of all that? So not only are you dealing with going after your goals and dreams and the You versus You mission, but what about also releasing these things that now you're totally like free? And it's such an empowering feeling to have these sessions done on you when you go from a low percentage of like anxiety, which is a bad thing, to like 100% where you like have no anxiety or anxiousness or curses and stuff like that are put on you, entities. I mean, it gets pretty crazy. So what has that really meant to you to be a part of a program that really deals with both the subconscious and the conscious side?
I absolutely love it. I think it's game changing because, of course, we can be motivated, we can be taking action, but still kind of feel like we're stuck and spinning our wheels. And so when I've had sessions done, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. It just provides so much clarity. And a lot of times we're beating ourselves up for things that when we have that awareness and we release it, then it's gone. And it's amazing because it's like, oh, well, generations of my family suffered from that. And it's great to know that we're not passing it on to future generations and our families. So that part is definitely pivotal. I mean, to think how powerful our subconscious mind is. And so once we release those, we just feel more free to continue doing the inspired actions we were meant to be doing. And quite honestly, I'm seeing changes physically in my body, mentally. It came up for me even a lot about, I'll be vulnerable, like fear of success and being afraid I was even taking from others. So sometimes these limiting beliefs and programs, we don't even know are an issue. And we're like, wow, that just changed the game in itself.
100%. I mean, that's huge wisdom right there, because it's so true for all of us. I mean, fear of success, or even fear of failure, and usually it's going to be like 80% of fear of failure, I think, that comes up for people. But then, you look at that, like, why would you fear success? Well, it's because you feel unworthy. So even if you got, tons of clients, or you became a best-selling author, but then you're thinking, you're kind of freaking out. You're like, well, what if I do? Like, am I going to be able to actually be on that stage? Am I going to actually hold the microphone? Am I going to be able to really lead people effectively? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not good? What if I have a client that just hates me? And all of this stuff comes up, and that's why it's so important to have self-awareness, because the coolest thing that I've learned from my coaching experience from people I've hired is, actually the one person I hired that for 13 years, he's been my coach, is no matter what we're facing, it's that perspective analysis. It's like, okay, here's what I feel, but what can I do about it? What can I do practically? And even, so, hey, if I'm feeling really emotional right now, if I had a practitioner, I could just give him a call, or I could reach out. If I feel like I got to do this, an action step, I could just reach out to my coach. So how is it for you psychologically, without even having like me call you, or even a manual, just knowing that you have the program, just knowing that you're in the family, just knowing like you're a part of this movement? How has that affected you psychologically these past couple weeks in a positive way? Like, what has it done for you?
Yes, it's truly amazing, because, I know I have a community of people literally a text message or phone call away. And just knowing that you have that support system, if it's, hey, I'm feeling that I picked up some emotions from the stressful weekend, and chaotic events that are going on, then I know my friends that can support me in that. Hey, I need a little bit of accountability because I'm starting to get overwhelmed. But as you say, out of alignment, not overwhelmed, I need to refocus. And sometimes we just need people to call us out on that and say, hey, let's refocus. And, I've even noticed on the flip of that my clients have been doing that. And it's really neat, because they'll reach out and say, hey, I had a breakthrough today, or this is what I want to work on our next call. And having that awareness, it's just game changing. And a support system of people that aren't going to judge you as well. Because again, sometimes our family or friends might mean well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, and then we'll share kind of where people can follow you on Instagram and everything, and obviously this is your Facebook page. So judgment, I think that honestly is one of the top 3 things that hold people back from their you versus your dreams, or you versus your successes. They're afraid to be judged, like literally so afraid that they freeze up, because if they're judged in a negative way, they just don't know how to handle it. And I think there's a lot of anxiety with social media. There's a lot of anxiety of just, sharing the real truth about ourselves, right? You versus your persona. Like in the edited, we want to edit our life. We want to just only show the highlights of our life. We just want to show perfect marriage, my beautiful wife, my beautiful husband. We're just on date night, never miss a night. And then literally that day, we might be fighting with our husband and wife and saying, I hate you. But then we post up, hey, date night, and everyone's like, oh, power couple, and then a couple years later, it's the same divorce post. This is going to be hard, where we are best friends, but we decided to part ways amicably. It's just the same. It's the same stuff. So how can we go against the judgment? I'm not saying you're like the all-time expert about this, but I'm just saying from your own perspective, right? And I'm not either, but just from your own perspective as a coach, how can we be fearless with judgment, but still live a life of authenticity? And even at times being vulnerable, that not everything is perfect, and we are struggling, and we are having a hard time, but we're doing proactive things. We're not reacting, but we're actually being more proactive.
That's a great question, because I often hear, it's funny, even working from home, when my family sees me deep in thought and I'm not smiling, they're like, "Are you all right?" And having more of like a happy personality and being mindful of that, I do get that a lot, where people are like, "Well, everything's just great in your life," and it's like, but I take mindful action daily to ensure that I'm in the best state, whether it be journaling, whether it be EFT tapping. I'll do clearings of my subconscious mind as much. So I really believe in having modalities, different ones for a toolbox. And some days, they resonate with me differently. So learning various techniques, I have a go-to, and it's okay. And I often talk about like the emotional hierarchy scale. So some days we might be lower on that, and we obviously want to work our way up. And just being mindful of my emotions and not letting them take control over me. Same way with fear. If we start getting in our mind, then we just don't even want to take those actions.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So tell me one last thing. Tapping. So I've done tapping. It's really great. So can you maybe just show an example of something that somebody can do, and just kind of walk us through that in just 60 seconds to 2 minutes? But like when we feel anxious or we feel like overwhelmed, which is really just being in misalignment with your vision, what is tapping on the physical side of kind of getting back to our alignment, because a lot of times we're out of it, but when we get back into it, we feel the most free and have inner peace. So can you show us an example of some tapping?
Absolutely. So again, you can like YouTube a bunch of them, look them up for whatever. Say I'm feeling angry or something today, and you just start obviously with the different meridian points. And so it's interesting because you think a lot of this stuff is like, oh, it's so simple. How's this going to work? But I encourage you just to give it a try and see how your body responds. So you literally just tap different points along with visualizations. For again, whatever topic. And for me, it's calming to me. And a lot of people do it also while they're saying affirmations.
Yes.
Or listening to music. Again, just anything to get high vibe. And a lot of times, and I'm so guilty of this, I'm a very analytical thinker. It's like, just get out of my mind and truly feel it in my body. So typically it's just, again, a series of very simple, literally tapping on different points of your body. And one thing that's coming to mind, if I may share it, a lot of us hear affirmations, and they're incredibly, incredibly powerful. So I am worthy, I am powerful. Just very simple statements. But sometimes if we have the slightest doubt about those, something that I've been hearing and sharing lately that's been really pivotal for clients as well as myself is, if we have that hesitation, we can ask ourselves, but what will get me there? What is my next step? And sometimes the biggest action you can take is just to center yourself, to take a breath. Sometimes we get so far ahead of ourselves in steps of how am I ever going to do this? But sometimes just simply asking ourselves, okay, what's the next step? What can we do now? And just breaking it down into baby steps is very simple. So again, whether you take 2 minutes to do a simple tapping technique or ground yourself out in nature, sometimes that's the best action you can take just to get yourself started and out of your mind and out of those fears and what ifs.
That's so good. That's so cool. A little extra kind of credit today that really adds so much value. I mean, I've learned about tapping about 2 years ago through my coach, and it was really amazing. I never even heard of it. And then he told me about the meridian points, and then I would do it, and then I would do affirmations. And at first it seems kind of corny. So if someone's watching this, they might say, oh, well, Todd and Jennifer, woohoo people, right? But it's a physical thing. So anxiety is a physical thing. Depression is a physical thing because it can lead to even death. It could lead to suicide. I mean, PTSD, it's a real thing, but it starts even on small dosage. When you're in a kind of a marriage that you don't feel like it's going anywhere, you feel like maybe a friendship's not going anywhere, a job, you're kind of bored, you're kind of like there is no future. It starts that depression. But you could be the best janitor in the world, you can have the best 9 to 5 in the world. It's just all perspective, and it's all how you look at life. And like Tony Robbins always says, change your physiology, change your life. So if somebody really wants to start changing, they have to change themselves. That's why working out, meditating, reading, a lot of people don't credit working out their mind. They just think like, oh, I'm just gonna work out my body. But this is your mind controls the body controls the mind. So I really appreciate this interview. I think you offered some incredible tips. So how can we keep this rolling? How can people follow you on Instagram? What are some of your platforms that people can, seek you at?
Yes, I would love to connect. So my Instagram is the Holistic Life Cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And also I have a Facebook community, again, for women. It's called Empowerment Sisterhood, where, again, we share hope and mindset and just a community of sisterhood all throughout the world. So,
Oh, that's nice.
and
I'm not even allowed in it. So, because I'm not a no, just kidding.
well, I do work with
I'm just
males,
kidding.
but
I'm just kidding.
mission started out as females. And then, of course, I'd be happy to connect on my personal page under
Jennifer Ford. Yeah, cool. One more time. What was your Instagram handle?
It is the Holistic Life Cheerleader.
The Holistic Life Cheerleader. Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
I really like that because I want to cheer people along their journey. Sometimes it's like, do I even feel like a coach? Because again, I'm still growing and developing myself. So I like cheering people along because
I don't like that word. Yeah, coach is kind of a weird word because it could be used in so many different ways, like a football coach and then a life coach. It's way different. But I love what you are. You're a guide. You're guiding people. And imagine having a guide like on a safari who's really mean. He's been or she's been on the safari. They're like, yeah, that's the lions. But it's more like, oh my gosh, that's the lions. Yeah. It's just a funner journey. But the tour guide knows where he or she's going. And that's what really a coach is he or she knows the way, goes the way, and can show the way. And that's exactly what we are doing. We're guiding people. So thanks so much for being on today. Thanks so much for being on this interview. And I really appreciate you. So any last thing you want to share before we end the interview?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great. I really hope it was of service to people watching. And again, I just encourage you to be authentically you. You're worthy exactly as you are, even without the expectations that we often put on ourselves. So really just, reach out to friends and seek support and just remind yourself, take whatever steps you need to continue to feel worthy.
Cool. That's amazing. Amazing advice for sure. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thanks for being on. I appreciate you. And thanks for everyone that's watching. Share this with a friend, tag someone on it, whether you're watching live or on the replay. It's going to be on a Facebook page here and also the other channels as well. Definitely share it with a few people that need to hear this message. And I know that they're going to definitely appreciate you for doing it. So thanks so much again for being on the show today, You vs. You Show. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central with our next guest.